What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin, because I do be reading, and it's been a minute. Long time no talk. I'm here today to do the, annual mid-year book freakout tag. I love making this video every year because it's just like a nice moment to take stock of where my reading has been in the last half year. It is July 21st when I'm filming this, so we're a little bit over the halfway mark, but yeah, I'm excited to do this video. I'm excited to talk to you guys about some books because it's been a minute, and let's just get into the questions. All right, first question, starting off strong with what is your favorite book of the year so far? Of course, I cannot answer with just one book, but I only have two, and that's actually because I've only had 2 5-star reads this year so far. I don't know what's been going on with me in the last few years. It's just been taking a while for me to find 5-star reads. I feel like they all kind of come in towards the end of the year. I don't know if it's just because I'm finally picking up books that everyone's talking about, or picking up books that I've been meaning to get to at that time, and that's why all of them come towards the end. But it's been a little bit of a 5-star drought for me. I read a total of 45 books so far. I am a little bit ahead in my goal of 75 books this year, so we'll see where the rest of the year takes us. But I have 2 books to talk about. The first 5-star book that I read was Skin and Bones by Renee Watson. This is a book that I read with the local book club that I'm a part of, and Renee Watson is actually a local Portland author. She, I think, splits her time between Portland and New York, but she did grow up here, and a lot of that is imbued in this book. It follows our main character, Lena, who is about to get married, and some things happen, and we're kind of just watching. It's not really a snapshot of her life in this moment because we get a lot of past chapters kind of showing us how Lena came to be the way that she is, how her environment and the Portland that she grew up in and everything has shaped who she is as a person, and how all of her, generational traumas is affecting not only her, but the stuff that she's imparting onto her daughter as well. It deals a lot with topics of fat phobia, like body dysmorphia and self-hatred of body. There's a lot of discussions about being Black, especially being Black in Portland, which is a very white city, but still has a very tight-knit, thriving Black community. And that was just also perfectly woven into the story. She really plays with style. Some of these chapters are 2 sentences long. Some are a little bit longer. Some are a letter addressed to an individual. Some feels like it's a diary entry. She's really plays a lot with style. Some of it feels a little bit poetic, and I just really enjoyed this book. I imagine that the audiobook is really good. I read this as an ebook, and it was so good. I think it especially hit for me as a Black woman who grew up in Portland, or the Portland metro area as well. But really, I was a little bit I didn't know what to expect going into this book. I'm familiar with Renee Watson as a middle grade and young adult author. This is her adult debut, so I didn't really know what to expect going into this. I also haven't read anything from her, but this was just an absolutely stunning piece of work, and I cannot recommend it enough. The other 5-star read I had this year is One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El-Akkad, another actually local author. He was not raised here, but he is based here, and has lived here for a while. He was I think he was born in Egypt, but was raised in Canada and has just been all over the place. He's a journalist and writer, and that has taken him all over the world. And because he's Egyptian, he brings a very interesting perspective into talking about Palestine, which is what this book is about. This is a nonfiction. It is inspired by, I think it was a tweet that he posted a few weeks after October 7th, 2023. And he wrote, One day, when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this. And that is kind of what inspired this book. He talks a little bit about his own life and how that shapes his perspective. It was just really good. He's a really, really good writer. I really need to check out his other works. I know he has some fiction works as well. He has a very like enrapturing prose. This one I did listen to the audiobook and it's narrated by him. I really enjoyed the audiobook as well. I think if you want to read more books about Palestine, I would pick this up. I wouldn't pick this up if you are brand new or still feel like you're looking for an introduction to Palestine and its history and the occupation by Israel. I would not start here because that is not what this book is intended to be. But I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for more books around Palestine. The second question is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far this year? And I've read a couple of sequels that have all been pretty bad, but one is a clear standout. And that is this big kahuna right here, Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. Ah! This felt like a return to form for me. I liked Bloodmark well enough. It was a 4-star. In hindsight, maybe it's actually like a 3.75 stars. I really liked it because I feel very connected to these characters and I really like these characters and I feel like I could just read about them doing whatever and have a good time. But it kind of, the plot was we were doing a little too much. A lot of things were happening. I wasn't really sure where we were going. So it was not as good as Legendborn in my opinion, but this one felt like a return to form. Again, a little bit maybe meandering, maybe a little bit too much for tackling. But I had a great time with this. I read this pretty fast, actually. Like, I would say the first third is maybe a little bit slow, but once we get into it, man, I was like, I gotta read this. And I really liked the structure that Tracy Deonn kind of had going on with this book. Like, we had a little bit of a countdown situation happening, and I just thought that was really interesting and kind of made things flow at a fast pace. If you're not familiar with the Legendborn cycle, it is following our main character, Bree, who is going to an early college program at UC Chapel Hill. She's 16 years old at the start of this series, and when she arrives there, she notices some interesting, magical, fantastical things that might actually be related to the death of her mother. So she kind of joins this secret society to get more answers, to do a little bit of investigating, and she gets swept up with this whole secret society that is based on Arthurian legend. But it turns out all of these people are like scions of the Round Table, and they're fighting demons, and they get the powers of all of these the Round Table people, you know. And she gets caught up in all of that, and you know, she has a major part and role to play in all of this, and I think it really does a good job of weaving in the like Arthurian legend with also like root magic, especially related to her blackness and her identity. And yeah, this third book was great. I had a good time. I love the series. If you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? The next question is new release that I have not read yet. I mean, all of the above, all of them. I'm really bad. I don't know. I'm like, in some ways, I'm good at keeping up with new releases, and in others, I'm just not good. I think on average, my reading is about 30 to 40% new releases, and the rest are backlist. So I feel like there's always new releases that I have just not gotten around to. I'm a very big mood reader. I also kind of like to see what other people are saying about a book, just because I have limited time. And if people aren't liking this book and their reasons make it seem like I also won't like this book for similar reasons, then I'm just not gonna bother with it, or it's just gonna go much lower on my TBR list. But you know, I've also had situations where a lot of negative opinions actually make me want to go and read the book. In any case, a book that I actually just like happened across when I was at Barnes and Noble recently was this book, and I've seen I don't know that I've actually ever seen anyone specifically talk about this. I just like have not come across it. I've seen it at bookstores, and I finally got around to purchasing it when I was at Barnes & Noble because there was like a big sale, and I was like, you know what, this cover is stunning and this actually sounds really interesting. It seems like it's literary historical fiction with a speculative element, like magical realism. So yeah, I'm just gonna read you the flap real quick. Actually, I'm just gonna read you this last section of the flap real quick, because I don't really know how to explain this. Inspired by true events, Happyland is a transporting, multi-generational novel about the stories that shape us and the dazzling courage it takes to dream. That doesn't really explain things. But in any case, Happyland is a new release that I want to get to soon. The next question is biggest disappointment. And I have two that I would like to talk about. The first one was a real disappointment for me, and that was Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. I went into this with such high expectations, partially because I had seen some positive reviews from reviewers that I, for the most part, agree with, and also because it's just such a good premise. It's such a good premise. I feel like the premise was freaking wasted, in my opinion. But basically, this is a little bit of a post-apocalyptic speculative story where basically one day all white people just go and drown themselves in the nearest body of water, and we are living in quite literally a post-racial society. Like, there are no white people, and we are following specifically a man named Charlie, who in the aftermath of this event gets freed from prison. He was in prison for a crime that he did not commit, and would not have been freed anytime soon had this event not occurred. We open with him as a professor at Howard University, and he suddenly gets a call from his estranged daughter, who is biracial, and grew up with the white side of her family, and has heard only negative things about him, and she needs him to come take her to a specific destination, and we are watching them on this journey, and it was just a massive disappointment. I just feel like, I don't know, this book was a little hoteppy. It was a little hoteppy. It was a little, I want to say patriarchal. I just don't know that this book really engaged meaningfully with the topic. And, you know, I'm fine with an open ending. But the thing is, this book started to explain a little too much about the events. Like, I would have been fine if we got zero explanation about how and why this event occurred. I kind of thought that's what I was going into, and I was fine with not knowing. I was fine with an open ending. I was fine with this event just being a vehicle for exploring certain themes and telling this story. But instead, we start to get a little bit of explanation, which opened the door for me to have a lot of questions, and none of it was getting answered. And then I was like, I just wish you never bothered to tell me anything at all, because now I just feel like things are very underdeveloped and you've written yourself a little bit into a hole. So in any case, I didn't like this book. I had given it a 2-star, and I was just so disappointed, partially because this was a book that I also read for my local book club, where I was hosting that month too, and I was very disappointed. And I just came into this, like, I was so intrigued by the topic. Like, I just had such high expectations going in, and they were just not met, in my opinion. Hey, editing me here. I just wanted to come in here and kind of explain more about what I mean when I say this book feels kind of hotep-y. In between me filming this video and editing, I watched FD Signifier's video about hoteps, and it just got me thinking, and I just wanted to be more, like, specific with my words here, because I feel like it should be clear if you know me, but just in case, my issue is not at all with, like, pro-blackness or, like, Pan-Africanism or anything like that, right? My issue when I call this book hotep-y is that I feel like this book is not actually meaningfully engaging with the topic at hand. I don't really feel like it's actually taking the topic seriously. It kind of feels like window dressing to me. It feels like a ruse. I don't know. And also, I think if you're familiar with hotepery, I feel like if you're familiar, you understand what I mean when I call it that. But I just also feel like a part of it is like there's like it's kind of like rooted a little bit in misogyny, in my opinion. There's just like a lot of like woo woo, the divine feminine goddess queen type of energy happening in this book that I really didn't like. So yeah. The other book that disappointed me, although not as much, but it was I Who Have Never Known Men, which I just recently read, and I'm going to talk more in an upcoming video. But this one I was just really hyped for because a lot of people have been hyping this one up. Like, I've just been hearing everyone talking about it. And I think where things went wrong for me is that I came into this with an expectation that it was going to be some sort of like feminist piece of work, which it just was not. And I don't actually think that was the intention also, but I've just heard so many people describing this book as feminist. I've seen even the publisher or the US publisher describing it as feminist. So I came in with that expectation. I'd seen a lot of people comping it to The Handmaid's Tale. So all of that kind of informed my expectations going into it. And I just realized that that was not actually the case. I don't know that the author was intentionally trying to make some sort of like feminist opinion with this book. I think she's talking about women, and I think she's talking about the plight of women to an extent. I just don't think that she was actually overtly trying to say something feminist, at least in the way that I interpreted this. So I think that kind of messed with my expectations going into it, and I ultimately gave this one a 3-star. But like I said, I have a forthcoming video where I go in a little bit more about my thoughts on that book. The next question is biggest surprise, and I'm gonna say a positive surprise, and this one technically is not a 5-star. I gave it a 4.75 star. I know, I'm annoying, but it's really up there. And I just I guess I came into this with like, I didn't really have much expectation, but it's The Countess Conspiracy by Courtney Milan. I'd read one other Courtney Milan book last year, and I had a good time, but it wasn't anything to write home about. And I'd been actually following Courtney Milan on like Twitter, and now like I think Blue Sky or Threads, I forget which place she transitioned to. But I'd been following her online for a very long time before I even picked up her books. But in any case, I picked this one up because I was just in such a mood to read a romance book that had so much tension and yearning. Like, I was like, please, I need something like that. So I went to a wild place. You're not gonna believe it. I went to the romance book subreddit of all places. If you know, that place is chaotic as fuck. And there's a lot of interesting opinions on there. And I just was looking, and I had seen a couple people mention this book a couple of times in the subreddit. I picked this one up, got it from my library, and it was so good. It was incredible, actually. And the tension, excellent. This is technically the third book in the Brothers Sinisters series, but I think they're all like interconnected standalones. So this is following Sebastian, who is kind of a rake. And he is one of my favorite type of characters, where you have the guy who is like super charming, who is kind of a comedian. He's kind of funny, but it's hiding a deeper inside. Maybe there's some pain on the inside. He's covering his pain with humor. That's my favorite type of guy in media. It is. And he is besties with our girl Violet. And she is a widow. She's the Countess of Cambry. And she is a genius. She's like super into like biology and like is really good at it. But no one takes her seriously because she's a woman at this time. And so Sebastian is the one who's like, she makes Sebastian, well, she doesn't make, she asks Sebastian to like put everything under his name and do all of these scientific talks. And then one day he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this lie anymore. And she's like, what? And then things happen. And it's such a good time. It's so delicious. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. That's all I can say. And that kind of leads me to the next question. I'm kind of like skipping around a little bit, but like newest favorite fictional crush and newest favorite character. And I'm going to have to say Sebastian and Violet. I love Sebastian. I love Violet. I love them. Skipping forward again. Okay, newest favorite author. I think that might be Beverly Jenkins. I read a book from her last year that I really enjoyed. That was my first one from her. And then I read another one, Vivid, actually, which again is in this forthcoming video. Sorry to keep talking about this forthcoming video. I won't give you all my thoughts on that. But I enjoyed this one too. I mean, it's definitely a product of its time. But anyways, it was a fun time. And I just feel like Beverly Jenkins, I'm noticing, is like really good at creating like well-realized characters that have really good chemistry with each other. And I'm excited to read more from her. I can't say she's a favorite author yet, simply because I've not read enough of her books or like given any like 5 stars. I don't know that I necessarily need to have like multiple 5 stars to consider an author a favorite. It kind of just depends. It's kind of like a vibes thing for me, but I just feel like I haven't read enough Beverly Jenkins to like call her a favorite author, but I think she's on her way to becoming one. So there's that. The next question is a book that made you cry. I certainly cried reading Skin and Bone by Renee Watson. I also am currently in the middle of a book, not for a forthcoming video, but just an audiobook that I kind of randomly picked up. I had heard a couple of people talking about it, but The Hollow Half by Sara Aziza. And I'm not done with this book yet, but it has already made me cry multiple times. So there's that. And then another book, The Deep Dark by Molly Knox Ostertag. This is a graphic novel. And I read this because I had aspirations of reading a lot of the Hugo Award nominees, but that kind of fell apart really quickly. But I picked this one up because it was nominated for the best graphic novel comic category, and I really, really liked this one. I think I give it like a 4.5 star, but this is a very interesting story. It's following our main character, Magdalena, who is about to graduate from high school, and she is the primary caretaker for her grandmother. And she also has a secret that is kind of generational in her family. One could say it's an allegory for generational trauma. And she keeps her head down, but then an old friend of hers from when she was a child returns back to this small town that they're from, and they kind of start up a relationship, and then, you know, all of that stuff. It's very high school. It is, I would say, more upper YA, but YA nevertheless. And I just really liked it. I think the art is really pretty, and I really like how the author utilizes color in this. It's mostly black and white, but there are moments where it's in color, and I think the choices make the story like really pop. It makes it more vibrant when the color is used sparingly. But this is really good. I really enjoyed this one. It also made me cry. Anything about generational trauma is gonna make me cry. What can I say? What can I say? But yeah, I recommend this one. This is from the same author that wrote The Girl from the Sea, which I didn't realize. I actually own that graphic novel as well. I haven't read it yet, but I definitely want to read it by the end of the year, I think, because I really enjoyed this one, and that one seems very cute. A book that made you happy. I have to say, probably The Countess Conspiracy. Even now, just thinking about it puts a smile on my face. Yeah, I cannot recommend that book enough. It is too good. It is too good. The most beautiful book I've purchased so far this year. It has to go to Bones to the Wind by Tatiana Obe. This is gorgeous. I recently subscribed to Satisfaction Box, which is a black owned like special edition box along the lines of like Fairy Loot or whatever. But it is smaller. It's on a smaller scale, and obviously focuses on doing special editions for BIPOC and other marginalized authors. The subscription is 4 times a year, so it's like seasonal, which I really liked. I like that they also pick like some backlists and also like indie authors as well. But this was my first book that I got from this subscription, and I just think that this cover is so stunning. And the sprayed edges, I don't know if you can see it. I'm like trying to be a makeup guru right now. And then the inside looks like this, which I just think is very stunning. It is very stunning. I don't know how I'm gonna read this. I feel like I don't want to like break this open because it's so pretty. And then the other book I have to say is the Barnes & Noble special edition of The Dragon Republic, which I just got recently. There are new special editions coming out of this series from Barnes & Noble that I think align with what the author was wanting from these covers originally. But these are just stunning. Sprayed edges, of course. Of course. I really love the end pages. Okay, that's the front. And this is the back, like, hello. And then the inside of it has this little tide. How cute. Yeah, those are the prettiest books that I've bought so far this year. The final book is books that need to be read by the end of the year. And you know what? I absolve myself. I absolve myself of this question because every time I come on here and I'm like, I have to read this book, I have to read this book, and then I don't do it. And I'm like, you know what? No book. There's no book that I have to read by the end of this year. I want to read whatever I want. I'm going to read whatever I want. I'm going to read whatever I want. And that's on that. Okay? Okay. Those are all the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. I would love to hear some of your answers to these questions. I especially want to know what have been the best books that you've read so far this year. Like I said, I'm in a 5-star drought. So I'd love to know what you've been loving so far. Give me your hot takes, you know, just let's chat it up. Let's chat it up in the comments, and I will catch y'all in the next video.